So welcome to Truth Seekers Podcast episode 2, where we're going to talk about Vipassana, which is a mysterious and often misunderstood term in itself, I think. And with me I have my friend Johanna, who has also been on a Vipassana retreat. In fact, that's probably one of the first things we talked about, eh?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's kind of how we bonded at the start, I guess. Yeah, so I want to start off by just quickly kind of defining our terminology here, because it's a word that means several things depending on the context you're in. It's a meditation technique. This is a quote: meditation technique invented by the Buddha that can end suffering. No small claim, that one. It's also an organization, the Vipassana organization itself, that was started by our friend S.N. Goenka. It's also the retreats that organization offers, and it's also just a subset, just a part of the Buddhist technique that is taught at the retreats. So it means all of those four things, really. There may be other things it means that I'm unaware of. But when we're talking about it, we'll be talking about the retreats and the technique taught at the retreats, because that's all we know about, really. Yeah, I actually went to there's a Buddhist temple not far from where I live, and I went there a while back to I got a cat everywhere in there, and you know, the abbot of the temple gives you a little interview at the start, and he says, like, do you know anything about meditation? I says, I've been in the Vipassana course. He says, oh, you know Vipassana? And then I proceeded to tell him what I'd learned, and he didn't really know what I was talking about, which I didn't really understand. So he then proceeded to teach like normal sitting meditation, just breathing meditation, and then a walking meditation as well. But it wasn't the Vipassana that I understood it to be. So I think it just goes to show how much I don't know. Right, you're going to have to do it because you're right in my go. There we go. Always looking for affection, especially at the most inopportune moments. Okay, so Yara, what I want to ask you to start off with is, how did you find out about Vipassana?
All right. I'll try to make a long story short, but first time I heard about Vipassana was when I was at Burning Man, which is a week-long event held at the Nevada desert every year, at least prior to Corona. Yeah. And it's basically a week-long arts and culture event, and a bunch of people, around 70,000, creates a temporary city in the middle of a desert. So, and me and my buddy, we were just going around the city at nighttime, and we bumped into this replica of a Tokyo's bar area that was in the middle of a city, and we just sort of rolled around the neighborhood over there, and we bumped into this like a small tea room where was this tiny Norwegian girl in the corner and reading tarot cards, and she asked us whether we want to have a reading, and of course we did. And the cards were basically telling me to focus on myself and do more meditation. And I had been trying to pick up a meditation routine like a couple of times before, but I always managed to keep it like a couple of months, and then I dropped it, and then life happened and something.
Do you mean like a standard meditation practice and focus on the breathing and try to let the thoughts pass through, or was it something more specialized?
No, it was just like a basic like counting your breaths sort of meditation. I used the Headspace app, which was like really great, but I just didn't manage to keep up the routine. And then this girl asked like, have I heard about Vipassana? And I was like, no, what's that? And she told me, like, she had taken the 10-day course previously, and she was like really recommending that to me and said that, hey, that was a really good course because you can learn the meditation technique. And then she told me that it was a lot easier for her after the course to just keep up the meditation routine after you have learned the right kind of technique. Right. And so after I came home from the trip, I started remembering, like, what was it again? Vipa, Wapa, something. And I don't even know how I managed to remember the Vipassana word, but it came up when I was Googling. And then I saw that they were offering courses all around. Going to go on my travels for half a year. I just checked that, okay, there's a course going on in Thailand, and I just decided to take the course.
So this was it Burning Man 2020 then? I guess it was, huh?
2019.
Oh, 2019. Oh yeah, further back. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
No retreats 2020.
So in all the, you know, the alternate reality of Burning Man, you still managed to hang on to that word and brought it back with you, and then you looked it up, and that was it.
Yeah, that was it.
So you didn't do any deep research into it or anything. You're just kind of like, I'm just going to go with the flow on this one and just do it.
Yeah, I didn't do any research actually before that.
Yeah.
And I was sort of like, I was okay with the info that it's a retreat where you're going to learn this meditation technique, and I didn't really want to know that much about it before going. So
I feel you.
Signed up, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of the same on these things. I just tend to, you know, it's pros and cons, right? But if you fall into it without knowing, then you just kind of learn as you go, and there's no preconceptions and all the rest of it. I think I said the same thing in the ayahuasca video. For me, like the way I discovered it, I don't know if I've told you a story before, but I was traveling in 2012 and I was in Burma, and we were having breakfast on a balcony in this hostel in Burma, and there's not that many hostels, like big city, Yangon, and there's just like a few kind of pockets of travelers, you know, a few kind of pockets kicking about, different hostels. So anyway, I'm having breakfast, and this kind of local preacher man, like that's the way I think about him, just came up and started talking to us as we were eating our pancakes or whatever, and started talking about Vipassana and stuff, and I've always had a kind of a little bit of monk inside me, and I can't remember what he said at the time, but he handed out these black and white printed leaflets, and somehow I managed to hold on to that flimsy bit of paper through all the traveling, the mud and all the rest of it. And then, when did I do it? 2020, I think I did it. And then I remembered that whole thing, and I went online, booked the course much as you did, just like, right, let's just try this. This sounds like something good, you know, and booked it. And then I went into my cupboard to look for something old. So I've got like a box of memories or something. So I'm rummaging a bit. Well, I went into the cupboard, opened the box, and on top of the box of memories was the Vipassana leaflet, like sitting right there. And I recognized the wheel symbol first because I just booked it, and I was like, what's the chances of that? Like, it's right there. 7 or 8 years later, it's the first thing I found after. So I was like, oh. So that was kind of how my trip started. Yeah. So you didn't have many preconceptions about what it was at all. You just went on this girl's word, and you're just like, okay. You really didn't have any idea apart from the fact that it's a meditation technique.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I did not know anything.
Yeah. And so tell me about like kind of arriving and at the center, and how that kind of went down, how you're feeling and what your impressions were.
Yeah, well, before the retreat started, we all got this like code of discipline. Yes. And how we should behave. I think it was maybe 30 days before the retreat.
Yeah.
Like and also like the rules that apply like during the retreat, like the noble silence part and those things. I knew before going there, and the funny part was that as I was telling all of my friends and everyone that I was going to attend to a 10-day course where you can't talk.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, oh, you can't do it, that's so hard for you. Yeah. So and that was the like also one of the things that I was thinking a lot before going to the retreat. I was like, oh my God, 10 days and I can't say a word. And like later on now, as I think about it, it was like such a silly thought, because like staying quiet is actually like so necessary for you to be able to reach that kind of concentration, what the meditation technique requires. So that was the one thing that I was definitely like thinking before the course started. But basically I was just taking a bus from Bangkok city to Kanchanaburi, which was the place where the retreat center was. And the first evening there was just a short info of what's going to happen. They gave us our room keys. The retreat center was it was super beautiful. I was expecting like a lot more like rural, like more humble surroundings, and I was really surprised how modern and amazing place it was. It was really neat, like a wonderful place. And yeah, then we basically just started the next morning.
Right. So I think it might be interesting at this point to quickly go over the rules, the code of discipline, because it's quite an interesting list in itself. So I've got it in front of me. So quoting from the Dhamma spelled DHAMMA.org website, which is the official Vipassana organization website. It's a non-profit organization, and the code of discipline. So quoting here, it says the foundation of the practice is sila, moral conduct. Sila provides a basis for the development of samadhi, concentration of mind. Purification of the mind is achieved through panna, the wisdom of insight. The precepts. All who attend a Vipassana course must conscientiously undertake the following five precepts for the duration of the course. Number 1, to abstain from killing any being. Number 2, to abstain from stealing. Number 3, to abstain from all sexual activity. Number 4, to abstain from telling lies. And number 5, to abstain from all intoxicants. So that's the 5 moral foundations upon which it's built. And then there's a list of other stuff. Acceptance of the teaching, the technique. So kind of give yourself up to it, you know. Other techniques, rites and forms of worship. Like if you are, I don't know, there's all sorts of things, like if you have beads and you like to count beads, or what you want to recite mantras or singing or dancing as part of whatever practice you have, then it's strongly advised that you leave all that at home and you don't bring it with you, so that it doesn't interfere. And I think also so that you know when you get the effects of Vipassana, that you know that it's purely the effects of the Vipassana and not a combination of what you normally do, because you could easily shift it and go, oh well, I was doing this as well, you know. And then it goes on to talk about the noble silence, like you say. All students must observe noble silence from the beginning of the course until the morning of the last full day. Noble silence means silence of body, speech and mind. So any form of communication with fellow student, whether by gestures, sign language, written notes, etc., is prohibited. So nods and winks and all that kind of stuff is also out. You're not supposed to kind of, like, you're not even really supposed to make eye contact. I seem to remember them being quite explicit about it, right? Keep your eyes down, mind your own business, etc., etc. And yoga's not allowed. And I think the main reason there is because there's no places, no private places you can do it, really. So if you're touching your toes and someone walks past, it's hard to, you know, because you're in such an insular self space. If you walk past someone and they're touching their toes, then you kind of break out of that, and whatever it is you might think, it's not what you're supposed to be thinking at the time, right? And other things like no tobacco, no toxins, no drugs, etc., etc. So there's a whole list of stuff, but it's basically behave and follow those 5 precepts, really. The first one is the one to abstain from killing any being, right? Like, it sounds obvious, and most of us are not in the habit of killing beings on a regular basis anyway. Obviously the food there is vegetarian, you know, but I remember a moment where I was losing my patience. I don't want to go into the I don't want to go into the technique yet. We'll put a warning up first. So if people are thinking about doing Vipassana, then they can skip that part, because there's kind of an unspoken code between people that have done Vipassana that you don't talk about the technique. So that, because that unfolds in a certain way that if you know about it beforehand, I think it changes the impact. I met a guy who was there with his wife, and his wife had been 2 or 3 times, and she didn't even tell him what had happened. And I don't know about you, but at no point on the course did they say to me, "Don't talk about this." Like there's no point in the short speeches at the start, at the end, where they explicitly say, "Don't tell anybody about what goes on in here." That's not what happens, but everyone just kind of understands once they've been through it, right?
Yeah, that's true. It's like, because it builds up, like every day is leading you to the next step and so on. So it's like there's no use really to spoil it by telling too much about the technique, because it's such a private experience anyway. So
exactly.
it's better that you just go and do it.
Yeah,
and
that's
experience it yourself.
It's kind of like, it's almost like skipping to the end of the book and ruining the book in some way for it, isn't it? But the abstaining from killing any being was an interesting one for me, because that's the only one that I think I really came up against. Because there was one day, and I lost my calm one day because it was difficult, and I was thinking about giving up. And as I came outside, and I was a little bit tense, and I was a little bit, oh, this is really hard. And a fly landed on my arm, I think, and without thinking about it, I went to slap it. And it took me a second to realize what I'd done. I was actually walking away by the time I realized what I'd done. And I went back then and looked for the corpse of the fly and couldn't find it. And the second day I went back and couldn't find the corpse of the fly either. So I'm hoping that means that I stunned him at best, you know.
Yeah. Oh, you missed it.
Or I missed it, yeah, or I missed it. But that stayed with me the whole retreat. The fact that and it was interesting because I'd lost my calm, I'd lost the mindfulness, and I was in that kind of state of mind where I was lashing out, and the fly happened to be there, and you know, I was borderline breaking that first rule. Although, you know, if you read those rules before you go, you would think that would be the last rule you would break of any of them, right? You'd probably be more inclined to, I don't know, maybe not, but yeah.
True.
You know. Right, should we talk a little bit about where it came from, about where Vipassana comes from, apart from it coming from the Buddha himself? Or you informed me, I think it was you that told me that there's not only one Buddha. I don't know if you remember that conversation. I was like, no, there's only one Buddha.
I do remember. I do remember. It was the last hour at the Doha airport, and it was like this.
Oh, was it?
Okay. It was? Yeah, it was. And I was like, okay, I don't want to spend the last hour having this argument. Yeah. So I just waited for you to go, then did my Googling, and I was like, see, there is more than one Buddha.
Yes, you did. Yeah, I had to eat humble pie that time.
Yeah. But I do remember that from the discourses, as Goenka was teaching that.
Who tells a little bit about who Goenka is, Johanna, for those people that have got no idea.
Yeah. So SN Goenka is like, how can I say it? He's the teacher that sort of brought the Vipassana back to the people, made it widely known meditation technique again. I mean, I believe that he's originally from India, but he was living in Burma at the time. He got in touch with the Vipassana technique. And if I remember correctly, Vipassana was almost like a technique that had sort of disappeared. It was only practiced in Burma.
Yeah.
And then Goenka got to know this technique and found it wonderful, and he became a Vipassana teacher, and he started teaching the technique, and he went back to India and started having his own retreats there. And nowadays there's like retreat centers all around the world that follow his teachings. Basically, the retreat that we both went to, there's always after a day of meditation, you have like a hour to 2 hours discourse at the evening where you watch the Goenka talk about the technique and everything related to Vipassana.
Yeah. And
well, did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, you did. Yeah, and it's I think the way they do that, isn't it, is to keep, so no matter where in the world the Vipassana course happens, it's almost always exactly the same course that you follow. Like, I believe the food is very similar with probably some local changes, but the structure of it, the structure of each day, which I checked the other day, and is I believe it's 10 3/4 hours of meditation every day. I've been underquoting it to everybody I've met, but it's almost 11 hours of meditation every day, and it's starts at a certain time, and you have the lunch, and that's on the website. So no matter where you go in the world, you get that, and then you get Goenka on video talking at the end of the day. Goenka's dead now, but it prevents that. It prevents that kind of Chinese whispers telephone game effect, you know, where the original teacher says, he walked down the road, and then, you know, the next teacher says, he swam across the pond, and before you get to the end of it, you know, he's riding a horse or whatever. Then it's just to kind of it's to keep that purity, right? And I think he was taught by he had a pure lineage. No, I can't remember how it went. Like, I think it was missing in India for hundreds of years, wasn't it? Like, it wasn't being practiced, and he brought it back to life.
True. It was the technique only survived in Burma, and that's where it survived, and that's where Goenka learned it and took it back to India and eventually around the world.
And I've been to the big pagoda, the big famous pagoda in Burma, but it was 2012, and at the time I didn't realize it was Vipassana centered. Wow. I think it's called the Shawadigon. And only years later did I find out that it was actually kind of like I think it was built in his honor, or built to the honor of Vipassana, or something like that. Anyway.
True. Wow, that's on my bucket list, definitely.
So that's so wherever I got that quote from, I can't remember. A meditation technique invented by the Buddha that can end suffering is quite the claim. Can you shed any light on where they're coming from with that sentence?
Well, the technique aims to look the world through equanimity and just so you see the things as they are. And that's how you would want them to be. So, well, the basis of suffering is because you create craving or aversion towards things. So this technique is trying to teach you through the framework of your body to see the things as they are, and just like experience them without judgment, letting them come and go as things come and go in life. So in a nutshell.
I think that's a good explanation, and I think it's, I don't know, I don't think I understood beforehand, you know, because suffering as a concept seems to be eternal, right? And or it's a truth that our human condition, there's going to be suffering involved. And I don't think what I realized until after Vipassana is that you will go through pain of different circumstances, you know, but the suffering is not the same as pain, and you can detach it, like you say, depending on how you view it, you know. And it's mind-blowing. I think that's mind-blowing. And there's, I mean, certainly, I'm sure you felt the same, but when I came out of the retreat, and it wasn't until I was back in the real world that I realized on a very, very small level that things that would probably have made me suffer before I was no longer suffering from. Like my first impression was arriving at this sweaty, busy, chaotic airport, a small airport in Australia, which is where I did my retreat, and walking in and realizing that none of the energies in the room, none of the frustration and all the rest, none of it was sticking to me. It was all just bouncing off and just sliding past. And I was like, oh my God, this works. And you don't feel it at the time in the retreat because it's so quiet and you're in a different mind space and you never experience that place in a different way. But then once you get back to things that you're accustomed to, then it really clicks and you're like, oh, things have changed. Like I'm seeing the world in a slightly different way. Like I remember explaining it to people as the classic kind of movie trope where you see the guy standing on the street and all the lights of the cars are flashing by him and he's just like looking at the camera and nothing seems to be touching him. And I remember in my head going, oh, that's how I feel right now, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I share the same kind of like a post-retreat bliss that I got because I also went to the airport like pretty soon after the retreat. And I was supposed to catch a flight from Thailand to Australia, and I was just like, I was so calm and so blissful and just really happy and it was wonderful. And I went to the counter and the lady asked like, do I have a visa? Because I was going to Australia, and I was just staring at her like with the blank expression, and I was like, I don't have a visa. Like I had completely forgot that. That didn't even cross my mind. But and in normal situation, I would have started panicking and crying, being rude to her because obviously it's her fault because I forgot my visa and stuff like that. But I was like, I was super calm and I was like, okay, wait a minute. And I walked away from the line and I took my phone and I filled out the application and bling, I got the visa to my phone and all the people were already gone. And I went back to the counter like, I have my visa now.
did you realize during that whole process, were you aware of the fact that you were calmer than you normally would be? You realized that?
I was not like my normal self at all. And all the time I was like super friendly to the airline personnel, and I was going through my travel plans with them and I was smiling and I was happy and I was like, oh, I forgot, la la la. And it was like not like normal me at all. And I realized eventually when I was sitting on a plane going to Australia, I was just smiling because I just couldn't understand what just happened. Like, how did I forgot the whole visa thing and how everything turned out, and everything went really well. I was like, I was so happy and calm, and I really noticed the change.
And a part of the reason everything went so well is because you didn't react in a negative way and become short with the counter assistant or anything. Like you just went and it just all worked out beautifully, right? Yeah. I had a similar moment on the plane as well after the nice airport experience, and I was on the plane and turbulence hit. And normally I don't like turbulence, and because of the heightened awareness, I could feel my stomach knotting, which I think it always does, but I was super aware of it all taking place in my gut, and I could feel my stomach knotting, and I was like, hold on a second, this is just what we'll get into the technique and it'll become clear where the link is, but I was aware that my body was responding to the feeling of turbulence, and I could just sit and look at the knot in my stomach and just mentally unravel it, and I managed to bring myself back to calm again. And I've never been so calm during turbulence, and I was like, there's something in this.
That's one of the main reasons. Of course, there's a million other reasons as well why I want to do the course again, but just remembering the way you feel right after the course,
exactly.
It's really wonderful.
It's brilliant. As I've got another quote here, which is just basically what we've been talking about, but I think it's worth reading out anyway. Central to the practice of Vipassana is the process of observation of things as they are with total equanimity, which is exactly what you said. One does not crave pleasure. One does not feel aversion to suffering. One just accepts without judgment. So I wonder if this is a good moment to maybe talk a little bit about the technique. And this is where I'll give a warning. If you are considering going in a Vipassana course, then I recommend you skip this part. We'll come back and we'll probably talk about other stuff at the end, but I'll put a time box on the screen just now, which will let you know which time point in the video to skip to if you don't want to hear this part. Okay, so that warning aside, yeah. So tell us about day one. Let's do it like that.
Oh.
If you remember day one, or yeah.
Oh, yeah, I do. Actually, 3 first days of the course, the students concentrate on the technique called Anapana, which is just a technique that's supposed to make you ready, prepare you for the actual Vipassana meditation.
Yeah.
And Anapana is a simpler meditation technique where you just concentrate on really like a small part of your body, like your nostrils and the area.
Yeah, just this little bit here, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's basically the first 3 days is where you practice Anapana and you sort of like sharpen your mind, because you are only focusing on one certain point, one certain area of your body, and especially like the way how you can feel the air.
Yeah.
Like when you breathe in your nostrils and when you breathe out, you can feel the air coming out of your nostrils. So yeah, that's an easy way to start, let's say that.
Yeah, and that's for, to make sure the context is clear, that's for almost 11 hours a day for 3 days. That's all you're doing, or that's all you're trying to do. Obviously, you're having the eternal battle with thoughts coming in and out and all the rest of it, but that's all you do. That's all you do, right?
Yeah, true. And another things about the first days, you clearly notice very soon how hard it is to sit down. Yes. How painful it is to just sit for, as we said, over 10 hours. Yeah. Oh my God, that's really hard at first, but it gets easier. You get used to that, and pretty soon all the cushions that they have at outside of the meditation hall. Yeah, better be fast with those, because those will disappear quite quickly after the first few days, because people realize that I'm going to need all the support I can have, because it's going to be 10 days and 100 hours just sitting.
So how many?
So it's really hard for your body as well.
What was your because people take all sorts of different levels of cushion setup as one of the things you notice. Like some people build themselves little comfortable palaces. And some people take one cushion here and that's it. So where were you on that scale?
I think kind of like in the middle.
Yeah.
Like soon we're gonna talk how the course continued, but at first I started with just a couple of pillows, but I was soon enough picking more for myself.
Okay, you built it up a little bit. So I guess you had like pillows under your knees. Were you trying to sit cross-legged the whole time, straight back, cross-legged?
Yes. That was pretty much how I was at least trying to sit for through the sessions. And another thing about like the first few days was like you just realize how much stuff is going on in your head. Yeah. For example, I have like a jukebox playing like all the songs I've ever heard during my lifetime, from from the time when I was a kid to a song that I last listened before I came to the retreat center, everything. And it's really surprising what pops out of your head when you're just quiet and trying to meditate. And it's just oh my God. And first few days was just basically like trying to silence all the noise that was like just
try not to sing out loud.
Yeah. It was like it's crazy to see the stuff that comes out.
I remember watching a film a long time ago. I forget the name of the film, but it's one where it's two ice climbers and one of them falls and breaks his leg, and I think the guy cuts the rope. It's quite famous, quite infamous. And I remember at the time when the guy's trying to he's dying, you know, he's in the process of dying, or he thinks he's going to die. And he's got one song stuck in his head going round and round, and brown girl in the ring, tra la la la, and it's going round and round and round and round and round. And I remember watching it at the time going, that sounds like this weird kind of form of torture, you know. And it's all linked to this. It's all linked to the same thing, you know. Like if you let your mind walk that long with no external stimulus, it does some crazy things.
Yeah.
True. So how did you feel? How did you feel at the end of the first day? Where were you? Do you remember where you were mentally?
Yeah. I don't recall having any like a breakthrough thought or like anything like that after the first day. Yeah.
Were you quite comfortable being there, and you were like, okay, we'll just keep going and see what happens? Or
yeah, I was. Because I knew that the course is 10 days. So I knew that, okay, I'm going to be here 10 days and see where it goes. So I didn't actually have like at any point during the course, I didn't think of like leaving or quitting or anything like that, because I knew that this is the time, and this is the time that I have like bided myself into. So this is it.
So there was no point where you thought about giving up?
No.
Ah, look at you go, man. Look at you go. Mental strength.
No, I think if somebody would have like surprised me by saying like, this is actually 20 days, this course, not 10 days, then maybe I would have been like, what? Like maybe thinking about like, but because I knew it like before that it's 10 days, then it's easy for me to put myself to that mental space. Like, okay. 10 days, that's it. I can do it.
And like in those early days, you still have no idea what's coming next. It's not like you start day one and they go, okay, this is what it's all about. It's structured in such a way that you tend to find out the things that you need to know after you struggled with the uncertainty of not knowing them. Right? that was kind of like one of the general arcs of the course. And I remember waking up on day two after having done all the, you know, day one obviously, and suffered the back pain, which was ever present. And I woke up and I checked in with myself and I closed my eyes, I was sitting in bed, and in my mind's eye was just this beautifully calm horizon, and it was like a sunset, and I was like, and I genuinely was like, I'm done, man. I have found this peace, this state of mind. And I was ready to go to the teacher and go, hey, I think I can go home now. Like, I think maybe it's 10 days, but I reckon I've nailed it in one. I think I'm probably pretty good at this, can I? You know, obviously I didn't do it, but it just goes to show how utterly oblivious I was to even what the purpose of the whole thing was. Not only what was to come, not only the technique, but the actual purpose of it. I had no idea, and you literally found out day by day, step by step, right?
Yeah. And on a fourth day, when we started the actual Vipassana technique, I didn't even realize that we weren't doing Vipassana the first 3 days.
Yeah, no, neither did I.
I didn't really understand that, like Vipassana, that's actually the name of this technique. And we have been doing this other technique for the first 3 days. So that sort of surprised me. I was like, okay, so we're just starting now.
Yes, and that was the moment for me where I almost threw in the towel. It was quite a profound day for me. Was the start of day 4, because I think everybody struggles with the back pain. I think mine. Well, I know mine was bad because I was there, and I couldn't get comfy for the whole time, you know, and just constant back pain. And before the Vipassana technique comes along the 4th day, they don't give you a way to deal with it. Basically just suck it up, keep going, keep your back straight, constantly shuffling about, you know, like moving this and moving that and trying to be quiet, but constantly moving. And in my head, I thought thought this was like the hard warm up for the easy technique to come. So once it got to day, I think it's at the end of day 4, you had the discourse and it tells you about it. So at the end of day 3, or no, it's not. It's like in the middle of day 4. I seem to remember you've already done like half a day's meditation.
True.
And I was really struggling by that point. And then during the discourse, he starts to explain the technique, which we'll get into in a second. And he says, one of the major aspects of it is we'll be spending, I think, 3 hours a day or 2 hours a day where you don't move a muscle. Is it 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day?
3 sessions per
day.
3
sessions, yeah, 3 sessions. And I could feel the panic rising because I could barely make it through. I don't know how long it was between fidgets, but it was probably seconds, minutes at best. It certainly wasn't hours. And I started to have a small panic session inside, and then it was, I think, so that was an unusual part because you are kind of meditating while Goenka was talking to you, so that was quite unusual as far as the structure was concerned. But I remember being in a lot of pain and Goenka saying something about surrendering, and I absorbed it, and I think I just said, in a voice inside my head, I said, I surrender. And as soon as I did it, there was this very clear image in my head of this white light shooting from the base of my spine up through the top of my head, and all the pain in my back just evaporated like it had never been there. And I wanted to jump up and go, oh my God, like that's the last thing you can do. But it was all I wanted to do. I couldn't believe what was happening, and then the session ended and you go outside and you quietly do your kind of like little walk around whatever. And I just remember looking at the sun and I could feel the tears coming. I don't think they ever did at that moment, but I was absolutely, I couldn't believe it. And then I was like, once again, I was like, I've cracked it. I've got it this time. Now we're on easy street for the next 6 days. I went back into the next session and the pain was right back again. And I was like, I see,
Those strong determination sessions, it's really like a practical lesson for you to understand that this pain is only temporary. And also, like, the more you pay attention to it, the more pain you create. Because I also remember, like, okay, half an hour, no problem. Then the next 15 minutes was like, starting to feel pretty uncomfortable. And then the last 15 minutes was just like, I'm in pain. But it was just like, okay, take your mind away, take your mind somewhere else. And then it was okay. Well, like,
I'm not sure I'd agree that you're taking your mind somewhere else. Like, your mind, you did kind of have your mind sitting with the pain, but you were just observing it and not reacting to it. Like, you weren't making it worse by tensing up or anything. You just, which probably brings us nicely to the technique itself. We should probably explain that a little bit, I suppose. I'll let you do that.
Yeah. So basically, the Vipassana technique is, as I was saying before, like looking life through the framework of your body. So the technique concentrates on body sensations. So it's basically doing a body scan and trying to like feel like different parts of your body and all the sensations in your skin, touch of your clothes, anything really. Because at first when you start it, and if you haven't done it before, it could feel like what? If I'm thinking about my right leg, I'm not feeling anything. But when you sort of immerse to the technique, you start to notice that you can feel pretty much all around your body, like really detailed little sensations everywhere. And it's also, I think it's a technique that really requires like a strong concentration, that really does not leave any room for any other thoughts or anything like that. Like I think it's much easier to count your breaths, or if you have a mantra, maybe that helps more. But this is like you have to do it without any visualization. It's just going through your body, scanning your body from top to bottom and back. And yeah, what else?
Was did you have the same experience as me in that the overriding sensation once you start this, you know, this body scan? For me, the overriding sensation was pain. Quite simply, it was pain, and it was all. I think you had different body parts, if I remember rightly, but for me, it was from the shoulders to the ass. Basically, the pain was all up the back, and it would shift around. I would see it as like small volcanoes in my back. That's kind of where most of my experience and sensations were focused, was there.
Yeah. For me, it was, of course, it was different in different parts of the body. Like for the face and head, I think it was really easy to find those sensations. They were pretty obvious and always there. And I still find like around the head is the easiest for me. But then it's like my back, it's just like sometimes just blind spots, especially when I started the technique. So I could easily spot like parts of my body where I could not feel anything, that I really had to stay there quite a long time to just catch like even a small sensation. And the thing is like, you're not supposed to spend too much time on some body part, like maybe a minute. And if you do not feel anything, you just move on, and then you just continue the scan. And eventually you will become like your mind and will become sharper and sharper, and you start to notice these subtler sensations more easy.
I remember seeing after the whole experience, I watched, I think, one video of a guy talking about his Vipassana experience, and he said he could feel the blood going up and down his veins in rhythm with his heartbeat. So he could feel the push of the heart pushing the blood up his arms, and then he could feel it draining back again. And I never felt that, but I can completely, totally believe it. I'm like, I'm quite sure you did. Yeah, like that's a sensitivity, right?
Me too. I believe that's well, if you become really good with the technique, that's where it aims to, because it starts at the top of your skin. But as you proceed, as you become, your mind becomes sharper, you start to actually like scan through your body, like also what's happening inside.
Yeah, true story. Yeah, it's I think it could be a hard thing to visualize. Like for me, it was, you know, you're literally like, your eyes are closed and you're constant. This is after 3 or 4 days of, you know, the Anapana, the sensitivity training, and it was almost like lighting up sections of the head. So I would go around the top of the head, and then this kind of fuzziness would appear, and I knew I could then sense that part of me, and I would move down, and everything would be okay until I got to the back, and then as you start to scan down, you'd see these points of pain, and then that's really where the equanimity comes in, right? So you find this spot of pain, and in your mind's eye, you just observe it, and you go, pain is there, pain is present, and if you observe it non-judgmentally long enough, it just dissipates into nothing, and then you continue the scan and you move down until you hit another pressure point or whatever it is, and yeah, that's kind of like the foundation of it.
Yeah, true. And of course, all of this bases on the fact that how mind and body are connected.
Yes.
So what's happening inside your mind comes out as a different kind of body sensation to store these sort of tensions and feelings to your body as well. So whatever the root is in your mind, it shows also in your body. So this technique is basically like you're releasing this like old stuff, and you go to the root of the problem through this technique, so you can really be released from the root of the problem.
That's right. I kind of forgot about that part of it. Yeah, and and I think I seem to remember the teaching was also that, correct me if I'm wrong, I might get this wrong, but like it's like the aircraft turbulence moment, right? So you don't, the panic or the fear or whatever, it doesn't arise from the external stimulus itself. It arises from your reaction to your body's reaction. So I would feel that the twisting in my stomach happened unconsciously, and then I can consciously then observe that and untwist that. Does that sound about right to you as well? That's kind of the way I remember it. And it's really important, right? It's not something to be just mentioned and then off you go to the next thing. It's fundamental, because it gives you that space where you can interrupt that process. So it shows you that it's not all automatic. If you feel, or even cold, right? Same thing, kind of stepping into Wim Hof and Finland ice swimming territory with that kind of thing, right? Like if you can react to the cold that you're feeling in a million different ways, and you can lower that down and go, hey, it's just cold. You're not going to die, not this time. And even though you get that prickly electric feeling all over your skin, you react in a completely different way. I guess it's like that, and then just multiply it out and more expansive, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Okay, I wanted to also talk about my experience I had, and I guess it was the night of the fourth night. So the fourth day being the day that they introduced the Vipassana technique, and I think at that point I was talking a lot about dragons, because I'd adopted the dragon as the embodiment of the things that you have to face to come forward in life. Like I was starting to get an understanding of archetypes and the hero's journey and all this kind of stuff. And I've been yapping about dragons for ages. And then, so on the fourth day, I was thinking about giving up. I was struggling, and I think I'd actually made an appointment with the teacher that I was due to have the next day. And I woke up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and had this very clear vision of my face and a dragon's face being locked in this very small cage, just staring at each other. And the penny really dropped then. I was like, this is one of those dragons, if not the meta dragon. It's like I really have to stay and stare this dragon down for the next next 5-6 days. And it was at that moment that I really accepted the challenge to myself, because I'd been wavering beforehand, and I was like, okay, this is what you keep talking about, bloody dragons. I was like, this is one of your moments to face one of those things, and and it was a very clear, I can still see the vision in my mind, and then I woke up the next day and I cancelled the appointment, and that was it. I was not that it wasn't a struggle, but I was on the straight and narrow after that.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So that was that. Yeah, I thought that was a nice thing to share as well. Yeah. So after, did you have any experiences like that? Did you have any strong visions that kind of shifted your mindset?
Not quite like that, but I did actually. I went for this course just to learn the meditation technique. So I wasn't expecting. I didn't have like any sort of like issues or problems that I wanted to solve. I wasn't even thinking any of that. Mm-hmm. But it's really surprising how the technique works, because when you start to, as like Goenka says, untie these knots from your mind, what sort of stuff comes out. And I was pretty surprised what came out. All of a sudden, I just realized things about me and about my life where I had maybe taken a wrong track before, like with my thinking and what I've been doing. And it's just sort of like hit me like out of the blue. I wasn't even thinking any of that. So yeah, all of a sudden I noticed that I was having these like really deep thoughts and just I had to face myself in a different light, and I was like, oh my God, like what has happened with me? What have I become? And all of this stuff. So it was really refreshing, and really it was really good stuff. Of course it was pretty hard as well, but
Of course, yeah.
It was surprising. So
It makes me think of that quite cool spiritual meme. It's like people think the spiritual journey is, and then there's a picture of a girl and she's sitting in the lotus position and the sun's behind her and it's beautiful and everything's beautiful, and then underneath it says what the spiritual journey actually is, and it's this picture of a terrified girl with her duvet up to her face going, I'm not crazy, I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about right. That's about right.
True.
And if I know you, then so that opening up, that stayed with you. That's something that didn't. It probably changed, I guess, in size and intensity, but that's still with you, right? And you still act upon it.
Yeah, of course. And it was really surprising. It was like somebody brought a mirror here, and I could like see clearly things that I need to fix, and it was really eye-opening moment. So yeah, it just proves that the technique actually really works.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And did you find did you find that it changed your relationship to, I don't know, I mean, I guess people would be the most obvious one to ask. Did you find that you are dealing with people in a different way, or old relationships that were in a rut or anything like that?
Yeah, it definitely changed, and I still like brought new ways of thinking to my life, and new sort of like principles and values that I try to follow when interacting with people and myself and everything. So yeah, it brought a lot of new perspective for me.
Mm-hmm. And you went back again recently, did you? It was a one day retreat, so I guess a full 10 hours of meditation, or?
Yeah, that was actually really just a half a day, little meditation session here, like Vipassana meditation. I think it was like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
It was just a little refresher, because I've been doing a little bit of meditation daily, but of course, like I don't even know if I can say this out loud, because I know that Goenka wishes that you would do meditation 2 hours daily, like 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the evening. And I've been doing maybe 15 minutes every morning.
Yeah, same as me.
So, but so it is a bit different to do meditation for 2 hours than 15 minutes, because usually it takes 15 minutes just to calm your mind.
Yeah.
So you can like get a proper grasp of the technique. But so I sort of felt like I really need like a refreshment. I really need like more time. So as they were offering that 1 day course here in Finland, I decided to take it, and I hope that the situation will soon be better and they will have courses more, so I could go on regularly to these like just 1 day sessions, and maybe later on have another 10-day course.
So did you find it possible to slip back into could you find some of the sensitivity that you need to do the Vipassana technique on that half-day course, or was it a real struggle? Or
I really did, because we had like first hour or first 2 hours was Anapana. It was sort of like a miniature course, of course, like
right, okay,
can't really put 10 days to 5 hours.
No,
but still it was built the same kind of way. So first Anapana and then Vipassana, and of course we have this like a metta meditation, which is the loving kindness meditation that we also used at the Vipassana course to sort of like close the course.
Can you explain a little bit what that is? To be honest, I never really quite grasped that at the time. I don't know if I was tired or not paying attention or whatever was going on, but I don't think I ever quite properly grasped the metta meditation. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So the metta meditation is meditation of loving kindness.
Mm-hmm.
And the point of the meditation is just to wish the peace and happiness and love for everyone around you and yourself as well. So there's different kinds of, I don't know if you can say mantras, but different kind of ways to manifest that. For example, like may all beings be happy, may all beings live in peace, and these sorts of stuff. And there's like different kind of metta meditations that I've been doing, but this is the core idea in all of those.
Right. So did you? Because the way I remember it was the kind of like I actually remember on the toilet there was a sign on the toilet that said something along the lines of, "Please leave the toilet as you found it." I can't actually remember what it said, but I do remember at the bottom of it, it said "with metta." And for 9 days, I was like, "What is this metta?" And it's like a classic example of Vipassana. They don't tell you at the start. They'll tell you afterwards once you've been thinking about it for 9 days, and then they go into it. But the actual, I thought that the instructions were quite vague, and I didn't really know what to do during the metta meditation. Like I say, I might not be paying attention. I was like,
you probably weren't.
And I think now I understand general gratitude meditation a bit better. You know, it's not difficult. You just have to kind of sit and think about all the things that you're grateful for, and just the manifestation of those ideas in your head makes you a little bit happier. You know, because there is so much to be grateful for. But at the time, I was like, I I don't know.
and the whole goal of all these meditation techniques is for just being happy, like you find happiness.
yeah that's it. Peace of mind. Disconnect from suffering. I don't think I've got any more questions. We could probably wrap up there unless there's anything else you want to talk about.
My bucket is empty.
My bucket is empty.
Yeah.
Okay.
My bucket is empty. Yeah. What else? Let me think a bit. Are you thinking? By the way, are you thinking of taking another 10-day course at some point?
I am. Yeah, I am thinking about it. I don't want to use the word tempted because it's not a good word when you're thinking about another Vipassana course, but I think it would be good. Like the whole doing 2 hours of Vipassana a day hasn't happened, even though the circumstances have been ideal for it. You know, it's been locked down. I've basically been in some form of lockdown or another since March. You know, so it was Bali, then Scotland, and Switzerland. Okay, summer was quite normal, but I've had all the opportunity in the world to do 2 hours of Vipassana a day, and it hasn't happened. You know, and the only people I've met that do it regularly are the ones that have been 3 or 4 times, and at that point it's really sunk in, like the importance of trying to maintain that practice. Because if you can, I mean, you know, I'm sure we both understand, if you can do that work and it gives you that level of equanimity that you don't otherwise have, that level of objectivity and not letting things stick to you, then that's priceless. I mean, myself, I know when my mind is starting to go a little bit like a good example is that what's going on in America just now. Like I've always followed American politics to one degree or another, and I try not to too much. But then when the US Capitol riots happened again, I was right back in, and I was absorbing news from, you know, trying to see both sides of the story, listening to CNN, listening to Fox News. And at some point I was like, and I was getting jittery, and and most importantly, I feel myself getting judgmental. So I'll see a story, or I'll talk to someone, and it doesn't have to be related to the American thing. That's just a general thing, you know, like even somebody, you know, I love can say something and I feel my mind building a counter argument or judging that person for what they've said, or putting what they've said in the context of a judgment I have about the person. And I could see all that happening much clearer than I could before Vipassana. Actually, ayahuasca plays a role in all that kind of stuff. But it sends up a little warning flag for me that I need to meditate. Basically, that's kind of like, at the moment I'm using meditation as a reactive solution, which I know is not the idea, but you know, it does kind of. Or if I go and meet an old friend I haven't seen for a long time, especially where I am now, because I've been kind of away from here for 7 years, I'll meditate first, and I'll center myself and try and dispel any ideas I have about the past or what happened in the past, and try and go in with a fresh mindset. But to maintain that Vipassana practice and strengthen it would mean, I would have thought, because that's the whole point of it, is that equanimity and that non-judgmentality is more present for more of the time. And you know, the airport, or both of our airport experiences are testament to how well it works. You know, it's like you really don't notice it until you're back in the real world, and you realize that you're kind of in your body that you've always had, but you're the way you're observing and reacting to things is totally different, and you've elevated yourself to a degree, and that's a beautiful thing. That, you know, that's always is a goal. So yeah, I think I'll go back and try and, you know, obviously I think they're still all cancelled, aren't they? All the 10-day courses in most of the world at the moment. I don't think they're doing anything.
Yeah, I think that's the case at this moment, but hopefully soon the courses will run again. And that's one thing I also want to add, like after the course, how I've noticed how this technique has affected my life is that whenever something like upsetting, surprising happens, that I tend to react like really strongly. I now have this like a tiny moment where I just pause and breathe, which is like become the new default setting, which is really has helped me a lot.
And I think the whole world can benefit from that for sure. And it's, you know, it's something that's real. It's not something woo-woo, it's something that does exist. We've both experienced it. We're not the only ones that experienced it. Millions of people throughout time have experienced it, and great spiritual teachers sometimes are great spiritual teachers because they teach this exact message. I thought maybe we could end on a quote from Viktor Frankl, just when you were saying that there, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning. He was in the concentration camp, and he learned a lot about suffering and all the rest of it. And his quote was, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." God rest his soul. Old Viktor Frankl. There we go. On that fine, tasty note. Thanks very much for having this chat with me, and it's been nice to reopen the book of Vipassana with you again and talk about it all, and gives me a bit of a warm, fuzzy feeling, just knowing that it's all there.
Yeah. Waiting for you and everyone.
In this incredibly public time, when so many people are willing to expose any part of their private life if they think it will bring them advantage, this woman did try to keep herself separate from that public world and only allow herself to venture forth when it had a purpose.